TFA fam, welcome back into another edition of Prop Talk. Tom, we are on to conference championship weekend already. Like, it happens every year, but like it really feels like, especially like the playoffs for some reason, they're just like, they're gone. We have 2 more games until the Super Bowl and then months of nothingness.
I know, but the NFL spreads it out in such a manner that you still get a fix. And it's always fun, especially because everybody starts anew with hope. I mean, look at the Bengals a couple years ago where they were at, and now they're playing in a championship game. Look at the Eagles where I was ready to jump off a cliff 2 years ago. So, I mean, look where we're at now. So, I mean, that's the fun part about the offseason is that in football, it can change so quickly. Jaguars are another team. I mean, number 1 overall pick a couple years in a row. The next thing you know, they're in the playoffs, winning a playoff game and playing the Chiefs tough. So that's the best part about football, in my opinion, is you can just you see it every year. It's a worst to first team going to the playoffs, winning the division.
Lions,
so great.
Almost.
Yeah, Lions.
Well,
they got a couple picks.
Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of time to break down the off season for sure. We'll definitely have more content. Probably do another TFA NFL draft. We'll have some dynasty stuff coming out soon. So we're here to win some money, Tom. We're here to win the folks some cash. Try and pad that bankroll before we get to the Super Bowl, so we can just blow it all.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've been on a heater. I don't plan on coming back to earth anytime soon. I'm putting hockey bets in and winning them. Cody, I was telling you, you're just like, I don't even know what to do with you at this point. I'm just putting ridiculous shit in. So, I think the first week I went 13 out of 14 just on first quarter bets. That's my new jam, the first quarter things. Last week, not quite as good. I think I had 10 out of 13. Still pretty damn good. This week, we're gonna start with the Eagles game, right? We good with that? Just going game by games.
I forgot we were gonna do that, but yeah, let's do that. Let's
all right, yeah.
Jump into that one first. Shout out to Walito rocking with us right now. Feel like I haven't seen Walito in here for a while.
I know, man. Maybe we get Walito over here and help us make some picks for the Super Bowl once we do that one of those shows. Yeah. Get him on here.
Our man Tam in here as well. But go ahead.
Yeah, man.
Start us off with your home team, Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, I will. The first one, there's this thing called being overexposed, perhaps. I may be overexposed here with Devonta Smith. I have 6 bets on him right now. I have him at an anytime touchdown. That's plus 175. First touchdown, plus 1,100. Devonta over 65.5. That line seems to be moving. It's been moving up. It was 67.5, 66.5, 68.5. So that's going, around abouts with the odds. Devonta Smith over longest catch of 23.5 yards. And then I also like Devonta Smith to have the most receiving yards in this game. That comes in at plus 270. I believe A.J. Brown is at plus 230 for that. I do like that as well. I might take one of those wide receivers because I don't see the 49ers, any one of the 49ers receivers getting that number. So I feel like if you want to plop down $25 on both of them, you're still going to come out with a profit there. And then Devonta Smith minus 17.5 points versus Brandon Ayuk. That is on DraftKings. That's a good one. All right. We ready? Should I get started? It just took me an hour just to run through my Devonta Smith bets, but we're going to get started. Let's just start off with how good he's been lately. In 5 of his last 7 games, he's gone over the 67 yards. The 2 games that he didn't were both in blowouts against the Giants. One was last week. The other one was the absolute demolition. They basically had 300 yards rushing. They didn't really need him. and he still got 60 in both. So it's not like he had he shit the bed there. He's also had catches of 23 yards or more in 6 out of his last 7 games. Last week we saw the 40-yarder, I believe it was. Although, you know what? I'm pretty sure it was a 33-yarder, and some sites have it down as a 40-yarder, which is odd to me. I don't know what happened there. I can honestly say since week 13, Devonta Smith has been just as good as A.J. Brown. Some weeks better. Just going to give you some stats from week 13 to 17, leaving the week 18 out just because the Giants had backups in, and then they kind of eased off. And then last week, we're not going to talk about the playoffs, even though, Devonta would have got an edge there just because he played a little bit better than AJ. So in those 5 weeks, they both had 49 targets. AJ had 1 more catch, 31-30. AJ had 50 more yards, but they both averaged over 105 yards per game in those 5 games. Each had 4 touchdowns. AJ had 1 more catch over 20 yards with 19. So we're talking 18 catches for Devonta Smith over 20 yards in those 5 games. They're not necessarily a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 like they were earlier on in the season. They are both wide receiver 1s at this point. And I say all of this for one reason. Wide receiver 1s have been roasting the 49ers of late. We saw DK pop off in the divisional round, 10 for 136 and 2. Last week he had CeeDee Lamb, 10 for 117. A lot of that was out of the slot, but Eagles moved their wide receivers around, so that doesn't necessarily matter. Devontae Adams was 7 for 153 and 2. They struggle with alpha dog receivers. The Eagles have 2 of those. They are going to hit a few big plays. I also have A.J. Brown over that longest catch mark of 25.5 for him. I know one of them are going to have a catch over 30 yards. I'm willing to bet that they both have one shot play there. 49ers have a great defense, but the one area that they're vulnerable is giving up those big plays. 20th in explosive play percentage in the league, the 49ers are. Meanwhile, the Eagles have the 6th most explosive passing offense in football. Chavarius Ward has shown he can be attacked of late. Diamador Lenore, Leor, I can't say his name, whatever, it doesn't matter. He's got interceptions the last 2 weeks, but according to Pro Football Reference, opposing quarterbacks have gone 55 of 83 targets for him against 695 yards, 1 touchdown, a pick before that, QB rating of 91.2. Last week we saw him jump that awful throw by Dak. I don't know what he's thinking. I'm honestly thinking the way I saw him jump that and the way I see Devonta Smith on double moves, you're going to see him get turned around and look really stupid on a long play, and Devonta Smith's going to hit one. One last little tidbit, because I know I've been talking for a good hour and a half already. We saw A.J. Brown a little hobbled last week. He was frustrated. If he's not 100%, Jalen Hurts is just going to lean on Devonta Smith. That's kind of what they do, especially if they have that one matchup, they're going to go there. Devonta is just playing too well to get shut down. I'm all in on him this week. That's almost 50% of my bets that I just named. Kind of insane, but I've never been one to, act in a sane manner, I suppose. So all in on the Slim Reaper this week. I'm done. Go ahead. I guess somebody can talk.
Are you sure?
No, not at all.
Well, I'll kind of piggyback off of that one. And I'm just going to, I feel confident. I think the Eagles' role in this one, the Niners' rush defense has been really, really good. Their front seven is super legit. We've seen a couple of games this year where Nick Sirianni is willing to kind of he doesn't abandon the run, right? But there have definitely been games where there are strong run defenses and weak secondaries, and Sirianni has been willing to let Hurts just throw it. So to piggyback off yours, I'm just going to take the guy who's going to be throwing the ball. I do like the Devonta Smith call. I think A.J. Brown could also go off as well. So just give me Jalen Hurts over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That is at plus money on FanDuel. That's at plus 110 right now. DK had it at plus 100. They had it even for a little bit. and then that dropped back down to like minus 115. And I think BetMGM is the only other book that has us at plus money. That's at even odds. Like I said, on BetMGM. Really don't have to talk about a lot after you just went through all that with Devonta Smith. But I will say, in the games where there have been like that disparity between the rush defense and the pass defense, you look at against Washington twice, 340-3, and then a $175-2. So obviously the yards weren't there, but we're looking for the touchdowns anyway. Against Pittsburgh, 285-4, and then against Tennessee, 380-3. And then you look at the San Fran pass defense, and like on paper, they look good. Like you're looking at them like, oh, haven't really given up, against quarterbacks. Like if you just look at their total passing yards, it's like, no, it's not awful. They look okay. They've played nobody, more or less. I think Herbert, Patty Mahomes, maybe another game or two in there, but they really haven't faced a lot of tough pass offenses. I think they only faced during the regular season, they only faced 4 teams in the top 10 in terms of passing yards. So it's not like this is like a battle-tested secondary at all. You mentioned some of the guys that have been going off against them recently. And then during the regular season, they've also given up multi-touchdown games to Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke, and Jarrett Stidham. So the Eagles have the second highest implied team total on the week. They got to get there somehow. So if you're going to give me Jalen Hurts at plus odds, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, and Marcus Mariota is probably the closest comp to Jalen Hurts as far as on the ground that they played on the season, and he had himself a nice little day out there. Let's keep going with the implied points and whatnot. Eagles, I think my pick for the week between the Eagles and the Niners. Listen, I can say I'm doing it with my brain. You're probably not going to believe me because you think it's all heart. But everything that I've seen, I don't see the Niners coming over here and beating them. Especially if some jackass decided to put a 49ers shirt on Rocky. Didn't we do this against the Vikings? They tried that shit and they just got stomped. Like, stop it. Stop it. What are you thinking? And then you got Debo saying, oh, I think San Francisco fans are even louder. Like what? They drink wine like I do, and then they just get loud in their seats? I don't think so, man. You ever been to Philly? Get it together. All right. Next two, I'm going to kind of piggyback off each other. Basically, Eagles to win the first quarter. So that's Eagles minus a half a point. First quarter spread, that's plus 115. And then the Eagles over 3.5 points in the first quarter. That is minus 105. Eagles have been fantastic at getting off quick starts all year. Last week, the Giants were so shook they went for it on 4th and 8 because they saw the buzzsaw coming at them based on that first drive, and they knew they had to get points. Analytics were close, saying that they should have gone for it there. So I didn't hate the call, but they didn't have a choice in that situation. They knew they had to go for that. Eagles average of 4th most points in the first quarter in football at 5.7. 49ers aren't that far behind at 8th in the league at 4.9 points in the first quarter, but we have a rookie quarterback flying across the country, going into a very hostile environment in Philly. I would venture to say that is by far the most hostile crowd he's ever seen. It's going to beat Norman by a little bit there. Even, college football can get insane, but a Philly NFC Championship game is going to be pretty hostile there. Last week, Purdy was only able to put up 3 points in that first quarter and 6 total for the half. Did not play great. I saw jitters early. I'd imagine in a less welcoming place like Philly, he's going to have a few early mistakes against the best pass rush in football. One thing San Francisco can't afford to do is fall behind early against that pass rush and that secondary. It's going to lead to rookie mistakes and him playing like a rookie. This should be, the best game of the year. But if San Francisco falls behind early, I can see a blow up by Philly, to tell you the truth. I think if they get up early and Purdy starts pressing, then it could get ugly. That's not just me speaking as an Eagles fan either. That's just the pass rush, the secondary, and when they pin their head, their ears back and they can run. between Bradbury, Slay, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Avonte Maddox is going to be back. It's just really tough for a rookie QB to go and play in Philly there. And he'll be writing history, because if he gets to the Super Bowl, rookie quarterbacks don't do that. So that is Eagles to basically win the first quarter, and I think the Eagles go down the field their first drive and they score a touchdown.
I like that.
I think I'm done. Go ahead. There you go.
So I'll get to my next one because kind of again, and we didn't even really talk about what bets we were going with before this, but with what you were just talking about, piggybacking off of that, I am taking Brock Purdy under 234.5 passing and rushing yards. This is at minus 115 on both DK and FanDuel. Right now, Purdy's just passing number only is at 222.5. His rushing is at 8.5 at the highest. I'm basically just combining these two into the passing and rushing just to give myself a little bit more wiggle room. It's not like Brock Purdy is known to be a runner, even in college when that's a little bit more common. I think the highest he ever averaged was like 30 yards per game, which for college numbers isn't anything for quarterbacks. Purdy's hit double-digit rushing yards just once in his 7 games. That was 16. I think his next highest was like 8 and 7. So it's not like he's going to be running around a bunch. And for his passing total, he has gone over that just 3 times in 7 starts. So just the 222.5. He's only surpassed that 3 times. Like I said, just adding the passing and rushing here just to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. The Eagles defense, this is just such a horrid matchup for him. Like you said, he's only played away from San Francisco 3 times. I think this will be his 3rd away game. Going to the Link, not going to be favorable for him. Then you look at the Eagles secondary. They lead the league in pass DVOA. During the regular season, they gave up the fewest passing yards per game at 179.8. Like, say what you want about the schedule. In today's NFL, to hold offenses to under 180 passing yards per game is absolutely bonkers. The fewest adjusted yards per pass attempt, second fewest yards per completion. You were talking about the secondary. Now they have Gardner-Johnson and Avonte Maddox back and healthy. I think San Fran's best chance here is just to establish the run, just try to get that run game going because Philly's run defense has been up and down. They're obviously a little bit more healthy up front now too, but I think the San Francisco plan should be to come out and just hand the ball off and try and play keep away as much as they can. But with McCaffrey banged up, Elijah Mitchell banged up, they might not be able to do that either. So give me the under on Purdy.
Yeah, and just talking about that for a second, trying to, establish the run. Since they signed Linval Joseph and Nadekam Suh, they've been a much better run defense there. So they're tougher to run against. They still can be run on. And the other thing you were talking about as far as them giving up passing yards, they were ahead in so many games and teams had to throw. And that still happened because that team gets after the quarterback and they get those sacks. And the one thing that I've seen too many times, man, Purdy tries to be Russell Wilson where he turns his back to the pass rusher and he rolls and he tries to throw against his body. I don't know how well that's going to work out against Hassan Reddick. And then Josh Sweat we might not see a lot of Josh Sweat because you have Trent Williams. That's fine. If we get anything out of Josh Sweat for the Eagles, that's a bonus. But you still have Reddick, Graham, Hargrave, Fletcher Cox might get a sack just because, he's going to be there. And as far as them establishing the run, that is going to be their best chance. But I was thinking about it. The Eagles secondary is really good. It's fantastic. That doesn't really kill the Niners, though, their secondary being that good, because they run so many things with Debo and Samuel and Kittle to the middle of the field and short and sweeps and jet sweeps and screens and things like that, where Ayuk is probably going to be erased from the game. But other than that, the outside receivers, they might be perfectly fine. Just okay, screw it. We're gonna try and dink and dunk and keep away because the Washington game and the New Orleans game that they lost, the Eagles, that's what those teams did. They kept the ball out of the Eagles' hands, and that's how they won that game. You got anything else on that game?
The only thing I'll add in is TJ Edwards over 9.5 tackles and assists. That's also a plus money. You can get that at plus 110 on BetMGM. Edwards as the signal caller of that defense rarely leaves the field. He drops back in coverage as well. Like we were just talking about, I think San Fran's going to try to establish a run, try to keep this like a keep away, clock possession type of game. Edwards has hit this in 9 games, I believe. So not going to go into too much more detail on that one because we still have another game to get to. But at plus money, 10 tackles and assists, like I said, seems a lot, but Edwards has cleared this 9 times this year and 3 of his last 4.
Yeah. So all right, I will transition with a parlay.
Hold on.
Okay.
So we got Walito coming in, Niners and Eagles, each to score a touchdown and field goal in the first half is plus 1,700.
I like that. That's interesting. Walito, get us the odds on the Bengals KC game for that as well.
And then Walito said this one is on DK underneath the same game parlay specials for the Eagles Niners, AJB and Devonta to have 50 or more yards at plus 105. I like that a lot.
Huh? Plus 105. Sign me up. What was that on?
That's on DK. He said it's underneath the same game parlay tab for that game.
Look at Kev. Kev is basically hitting on me at this point.
The TFA CEO coming through with the super chat. Much appreciated, boss. Yeah, Eagles Kevin, by 30 on Sunday. Kevin, all the overs for AJB and the Slim Reaper. I like both of them.
Yeah, me too. I do. And like I said, I like them both to hit their longest reception over for the day. I was pissed. So I took Jalen Hurts to get a completion over 37.5 yards twice this year, and he got 37 yards on both of them. So I'm not doing that one. I'll just stick to AJ and Devonta this week. What's it called? I forgot. Lenore, the San Fran, their CB2. Quez Watkins had a 91-yard catch against him last year. I just remembered that. So don't worry about it. All right, we're going to transition over to Kev's Chiefs and Joe Shiesty's Bengals. I'm going to do a parlay. Eagles and Bengals each to score over 3.5 points in that first quarter. That parlay comes in at plus 310. I like those odds a lot. I have both of these separated and in a parlay. So Bengals start fast, just like the Eagles. They average 6.2 points in the first quarter. They come in at second. Like I said, Eagles were fourth. Saw Joe Shiesty go into Buffalo last week and put up 14 in the snow in the first quarter. He's feeling it right now. Gets to go against a KC secondary that struggles against some of those elite wide receivers. What's a receiver anyway? Who knows? I think Burrow gets a quick TD to start there. I only have one bet for that game as far as the winner, and I have it as the Bengals. But with Mahomes seemingly getting a new ankle, that's a toss-up to me. And the Vegas line is crazier than anything I've ever seen with it with as much movement as it's been. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, that's been absolutely wild. Sorry, my child is.
You're good. I have 70.
He asked if I was done yet. Then he said this is taking forever. So it's just me and the boy this weekend. So.
Well, he can blame me because it's my fault technically. I had to talk about Devonta Smith and
for 17 minutes.
What color his backpack was in the second grade.
All right. I'm going to lead off with Samaje Perine over 36.5 rushing and receiving yards. This is at minus 114 on FanDuel. It's up to 38.5 on other books. So obviously, we're going to take the lower number here on FanDuel, like I said, at 36.5. If you look at the Chiefs, like total rushing yards allowed during the regular season, like I think they're like bottom 10, right? Like they look okay on paper, but that's also largely due to the fact that they have faced the seventh fewest rush attempts on the season. Kansas City allowed 4.4 yards per carry. That was 15th during the regular season. They also ranked 15th in rush DVOA against the Jags last week. Gave up, it was like 7.57 yards per carry. In the running game, there was 144 yards on just 19 carries. And then in the passing game against running backs, the Chiefs have allowed the most receptions and the second most receiving yards to running backs. And then you look at Perine, and he's seen an elevated role here ever since Joe Mixon missed those 2 games toward like the tail end of the season with that concussion. In the games leading up to that, the highest amount of snaps he played, snap percentage was 36%. Since then, with Mixon back, so from weeks 14 and on, Perine hasn't played less than 38% of the offensive snaps since then. Against Buffalo last week, that jumped up to 44%. He had 64 total yards. He had 64 total yards on 12 touches. And I think we're going to see Perine a little bit more involved in this game due to the fact of his blocking ability, which obviously doesn't help us out with rushing yards or receiving yards. But the fact that he's just going to be on the field more often is going to bode well for him. Alex Kappa and Jonah Williams have been ruled out. So I think it's going to put Perine on the field a little bit more. And 36.5 total yards seems a little bit low. So I really like that one.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, with that split, the way that they split last week, Mixon looked the best I've seen him since, early on in the season, first like 6 games, since before he had any of those injuries. So I think they continue to do that. So Perine is going to get, probably, 35 to 44% snap share out there. And then if they're going to try and get rid of the ball quickly, like they did last week against Buffalo, he's going to have a couple receptions in there. And all he needs is one like 11 to 12 yard reception. He's probably going to hit that number.
Five catches last week.
Yeah. So, all right. Next one, Bengals and Chiefs to each score 3 points in the first quarter. That is at plus 135. That may have dropped down to plus 130, maybe plus 125. That's been moving all over the place. Both those teams start quickly. I already talked about the Bengals averaging 6.2 points a game. KC averages 5.6 right behind them. In the 3 previous games, Burrow and Mahomes have played each other. That bet has hit every single time. So I like that one quite a bit there. I think that was may have been my first bet of the week, to tell you the truth. I also have Burrow and Mahomes each over 1.5 touchdown passes. So they're both going to throw 2 touchdown passes. That's a plus 130. They've each had 2 touchdowns in 2 of the 3 matchups previously. Earlier this season, Mahomes had 1 and Burrow had 2. That was the tightest that they played against each other. They've combined for 14 touchdowns between them. Burrow having 8, Mahomes having 6. I'm just looking forward to this game, man. This is going to be a fun game to watch, unless the Eagles somehow lose, and then I'm turning everything off and crying in a basement or something like that. But I am looking forward to this game. I honestly can say the 4 best teams are in the championship games, and that's the first time I think that's happened in a while. So that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. See, this is a nice thing about first of all, the Steelers weren't sniffing anything, but second of all, like kind of breaking away from having like an allegiance to an NFL team. Like I get my allegiance obviously with Penn State on Saturdays and whatnot, but like this is just so nice to just be able to like sit back. I might get pissed about my bets, but just like be able to sit back and like just enjoy the game. Like I'm excited for it as well.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun weekend. especially if you're in a situation like you are, where you don't necessarily have a betting or a rooting interest, and you just get to watch a good football game. You might like, Burrow for whatever reason you're rooting for them, but you're not heartbroken if they lose. Like that's what's fun about it.
Yeah, the only real rooting interest I have is with Philly and Cincinnati, and that's only because I put a money line parlay on them earlier in the week when Cincinnati was at plus odds. And I said to you, I was like, I think this line is going to swing. It's going to go in Cincy's favor, and it did. But what I did not see happening is that line swinging right back to KC. It's been wild. The only other one
I have the same bet. I have the same bet in there, and I think I had that actually before you. So you were like, "Hey, what do you think about this bet?" I was like, "Did it like an hour and a half ago, Code. Where you been?"
The only other one I really have here, like I don't feel fantastic about, but I think there's like enough here. Patrick Mahomes under 285.5 passing yards. Now, obviously, it never feels good betting against Patrick Mahomes in anything, but we do have like some inklings of hope here to go along with this one. So in Mahomes' 4 career games against the Bengals, he's gone over this total just once, and that was back when Andy Dalton was still under center for the Bengals. In the 3 games they've played with Burrow under the helm, Mahomes is averaging just 252 passing yards per game. And if you look at the teams he has played multiple times, that would rank as his second lowest yards per game average against the team. I think only the Seahawks actually have kept him in check better. Cincinnati has allowed just 4 quarterbacks all year to throw for 286 or more. They've allowed the lowest completion percentage in the league. They're tied for the 7th fewest adjusted yards per attempt. Now, the one thing here that, like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's not good. Cincinnati is giving up the 6th highest yards per completion, 11.6. But with Mahomes, his 12.1 yards per completion is the second lowest of his career. The Chiefs as a team, and I don't know how many pass attempts haven't been Patrick Mahomes this year, but as a team, 7.2 average depth of target is tied for the 10th lowest in the league. So some of that with what Cincy is giving up on a per completion basis could be negated a little bit. That like Mahomes just really hasn't been, chucking a lot of deep attempts down the field. That largely has to do with the receiving core that they have. And then I know there's no injury designation for Mahomes, but I feel like it's going to, like, even if it's just like 10%, right? Like I think that's going to hamper him at some point in some way. And like, especially if, Hendrickson, my God, why am I blanking on the other end? We went to Ohio State. I can't remember I'm blanking on it right now. Yes, it does. That's slappy, swampy Samsonite. It's way off. Yeah. But yeah, I don't want to say I like the under, but I think that there's enough there that like you could consider it.
Well, so the thought on the under, I'm not betting it, but the thought on the under, I understand, because if his ankle isn't as good as, it's been reported, then they're going to lean more on the run. And I'll transition here. I have Isaiah Pacheco over 47.5 rushing yards. If Mahomes is a little bit hobbled, I think Casey's going to try and slow that game down a little bit, which might hamper the receiving yardage for him. He might still get the touchdowns, but he might not get to 300 yards. So I think they're going to want to establish the run a little bit like they did last week. Pacheco looked really good running the ball last week, 12 for 95. Earlier in the season, Pacheco went 14 for 66 against the Bengals. He has gone over 58 yards in 10 out of his 11 last matchups there. So the only reason I think that number might be so low as far as 47 is what Vegas may perceive to be the game script. If KC falls behind, we're going to see more McKinnon than normal. Cody, you shared a stat on the Discord earlier in the week with Pacheco having a sub 40% snap share in the last 2 weeks and hasn't had over 50% since week 5. So that's tough. But that being said, he's getting his yards when he's given those opportunities. So it's not like the number's sitting at 62. If the number was 60, it would be much more prohibitive to bet. But because it's at 47.5, we've seen some explosive ability with Pacheco. So if he gets a 10 or 11-yard run, he's probably going to wind up going over that number because I think he'll get between 10 and 12 carries. So I like Pacheco over 47.5 rushing yards there too. So that goes again to your Mahomes under thing. If they're going to run more, then maybe he doesn't hit that number. If they're going to try and play keep away from Burrow because Burrow's just on fire, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's really only the snap thing that like worries me, but he's still gone over this in 9 of his 10 last games, despite only getting 20 to 30 snaps per game.
Yeah.
So like,
and now 10 out of his last 11 because he got it last week. So I mean, yeah. I also have Bengals and the Chiefs over 10.5 points in the first half. They're separate for me. I did not parlay that. I think they're both going to hit. 3 previous games, they both hit that two times. So 2 out of 3 times. So, basically, since he didn't hit one, KC didn't hit one. Both instances where KC or Cincinnati didn't get over the 10.5 points, they had 10 points. So it's not like they had 3 points at the half. I will do another one real quick. How many more you got?
I think that is that's it for me.
All right, I'll run through these real quick. Bengals to win the first half. So minus a half point, so it can't be tied. I felt much better about this earlier in the week when we knew less about Mahomes' health, but I still feel like since he comes out early and puts up more points, so that's why I have that, not by a ton. Talked about it earlier. Bengals, Eagles, moneyline winner. And finally, BetMGM has been doing these bet and gets where you bet $50 on something and you'll get $5 back per goal, whatever, in hockey and stuff like that. So they have a bet and get for a 1-game parlay. So if you can put up to 100 and then you get 50% of it back as a free bet upon completion. So if you put $100 down, you get 50 back. So it's really a $50 free bet. I just built, it has to be plus 200 odds. I just built what I perceive to be a very, very safe base to get to that plus 200. Each team to have over 7.5 points in the first half. Yes? Good? Agree? All right. Each team to have over 19.5 for the game. So they're both going to be in the 20s. And then the total is over 43.5. So that is, again, plus 200. Put 100 down. You get 200 back if you win. And then you still get the 50%. So you still get 50 back. So you can get 250 if you win. If not, it was only a $50 bet. So you can throw some other stuff on there. Burrow over 230. You can do some touchdown passes with Burrow or Mahomes, Chase, anytime touchdowns, whatever. But I just felt like that was a really good base to kind of get there. If you want to go crazy, go fucking crazy. Who knows, man? But I'm stoked, and I'm pissed that it is only Friday.
Yeah, I know. But also this week went by pretty quick too, so.
It did. That's what happens when you have hernia surgery. It goes by quick.
Yes, we appreciate you coming through strong, gritting through, putting your body on the line for the prop talk.
That's why I'm here. I was ready to go, and the doctors they didn't clear me at the end. It was a Tua situation. I wanted to go back in the game last week, but doctor said, "Dude, you can't do it. God, if you laugh, you crack a rib and die." So I mean. We made the call last week not to go, but we still gave out a lot of winners, so it worked out, man.
Yeah, if you guys want to join the Discord, the link is in the description. Absolutely free. Definitely be dropping some. If you're not in a legal gambling state, I do drop some prize picks, some Thrive stuff on there as well for some of the contests and the pick'ems over there, and we'll definitely have some more. I need to dig into the tackle props a little bit more. I've been doing all right with those. Over the past couple of weeks.
Yes, you
I guess
have.
we'll jump into the ones that I forgot about. See, Leo, you haven't been here for so long that I kind of forgot about the chat. Each team to score one touchdown in each half and one field goal in each half for KC and Cincy is at plus 1,600. So there's that one there.
So that's
Plus
an each. That's an
1,700
each half.
for that Philly game.
Yep,
Walito dropped some in the Discord as well. Mahomes and Burrow to both have a 50-plus yard completion is plus 1,000, which is interesting with those two QBs. Joe Mixon 40 rushing yards in each half is a plus 1,000. I think his yeah. I mean that one's really interesting.
There's another one he put in the Discord. Burrow over 275 passing yards and Mixon over 60 rushing yards. That's at plus 310. Yes.
Wow.
Approved.
My Super Bowl picks, I think it's going to be Philly for sure. I really don't see, like, even if it ends up being like a closer game than what I'm thinking, I really do think that Philly just rolls. But even if it ends up being a closer game, I just don't see San Fran pulling that one out. So I feel much better about the Philly game. It's really a toss up for KC. Like,
it is.
Can they really go 0-4 against the Bengals?
Right.
Like, is that really, at Arrowhead? Nonetheless, like, is that really a thing that is going to happen?
It could, man.
And maybe it's recency bias too, because I feel like if this game were after the Ravens game,
right?
I'd be like, oh, there's no way they're gonna get boat raced. But with how well they played against Buffalo and Josh Allen, I'm like, man, I think since he pulls it out, but I like you, I felt a lot better about that in the beginning of the week.
Yes, you take that really early, and you're like, oh, stealing money, and then it swings, and you're like, why did it swing back? What? Why did it swing back? And I got I have a friend in the Kansas City organization, and I was like, hey, bud, how's Patty moving? He goes, you think I'm gonna fucking tell you that, you jerk off? I'm like, all right, that was one of two expected answers. I also expected better than your mom. I just wanted to see what I could get out of you. You know what I mean? But so it's very tight lip there. But I was telling him, I was like, dude, Vegas knows, man. These lines are swinging. Somebody in there is talking, because if he was limping around, Vegas would know about it.
Well, the video is coming out too.
Yes.
Not being in a boot, jogging at practice.
Right. But again, you get hit early by that Samsonite guy, and it's not going to be good.
Way off.
What else did I have? Oh, so one other thing we keep talking about.
Sam Hubbard.
Yeah, I said Sam Hubbard.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, I didn't hear you say that.
Did I not complete the Sam thing? I said, yeah, Sam Hubbard, the guy who went the touchdown. Sam Hubbard. I am going to place a bet on the Eagles to probably like at minus 12.5. I think that's the highest you can go, because I think it could be a blowout there. So I believe that is at plus 3. I'll tell you in a second. Hold on.
What are you talking about?
I'm alternate spreads.
Oh yeah, I was actually thinking about that before the show too. and taking
so
it like
right now,
-6.5.
yeah. So right now, the highest you can go is -12.5, and that's a +310.
What is it at -6.5?
-6.5 is at +160.
Interesting.
Also safe. Again, if you think they're going to win by double digits, 9.5 is +240. So that's another good one. But these alternate spreads that there's no longer just like the normal teaser that we used to have back in the day. It's like, hey man, the Eagles are favored. You want 7.5 points? Fuck it, do it.
Yeah, and some sports books too will have like to win by 5 to 9 points. So like you like
yes.
yeah,
I
you
love
can,
those. I had I've told you guys this before. I know a lot of people. I play fantasy football with a lot of guys in the Eagles organization, and a guy walked into I don't know, ShopRite or Acme or a grocery store, and the grocery store was like, Eagles gonna win 34-10, book it. So I put a book down 34-10, man. I think it's like 10,000 odds. Like this dude, 34-10. All right, man, it's gonna happen. So he texted a bunch of us. He's like, yeah, so 34-10. That's what he told us. There's like 8 of us that put a 34-10 bet in. It's like, you know what? Let's do it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So, and they also have the margin of victory ones, which are pretty neat too. So it's like they're going to win between 21 and 26 points.
Yeah. There you have it.
Yeah, I think we're good, man.
Appreciate you pushing through, persevering, Tom.
Listen, talking about Devonta Smith is better than any Percocet I could ever have.
You say that now. Text me after you've taken the Percocet.
I'm all out.
Well, before we get banned for talking about this on here, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Appreciate all you rocking with us. Like I said, jump into the Discord, absolutely free, no strings attached. We'll definitely be posting some more plays over there. Like I said, Prize Picks, Thrive Fantasy. I'll be dropping some stuff on that for those who are in non-gambling states. Prize Picks and Thrive Fantasy should be available in your states for sure. Good luck to all of you this weekend. Like Walito said, let's make some money. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you Super Bowl week. 2 shows for Super Bowl.
2 shows.
2 shows. We'll see you soon.